Welcome in Lloyd Vance. Does a great job covering the NFL. Also a contributing writer, report for the NFL Network. Kind enough to join us on a Tuesday on this very hot and humid summer day down the shore. How you been, pal?
Doing great. We're almost ready for game time on Thursday.
Yeah, we got a little taste of it with the Bears and the Ravens, and then we'll see the Eagles in action. We'll see pretty much every team in action. Curious, we'll start with the NFC East and the Philadelphia Eagles. And I know Foles' upper body injury, it's not a big deal. Let's talk about from the business side that Lurie turns around. They give those contract extensions to Howie Roseman and Doug Pederson. And isn't it ironic, or I would say it's actually amazing, because in the NFL, it's what have you done for me lately? And 2 years ago, it seemed like everyone wanted to run those guys out of town, especially Roseman after the Kelly fiasco. And now everyone's praising them, and they deserve to get these contract extensions. They deserve to get new contracts. And I think at the end of the day, Lloyd, it shows you that the Eagles right now, they've got some sustainability, and they haven't had that since the Andy Reid years.
They do. Right now they're the front office model and coaching structure that everybody's looking at, and they want to, copy. It's a copycat league, and they're the champs. So, Harry Roseman, a guy who came back basically from the dead and came back from the back corner of NovaCare to take it over and hold the Lombardi Trophy. More power to him that they gave him this big extension, and well-deserved, as you were saying. So they're going to keep going forward, but we know Jerry Reese at one time got an extension from the New York Giants after he won a couple Super Bowls, and look what happened to him.
Yeah, you don't have to remind me of that. Absolutely. We know exactly what happened. Off to those aforementioned New York Giants. The offense is vastly different this year. We know that. You draft Barkley, you bring in Soldier. You also draft a lineman as well in Hernandez. I'm wondering, Eli comes into camp. They say he's in the best shape of his life. I always laugh when someone says that because everyone looks good in shorts. But again, you're finally going to give him an offensive line, and you give him some weapons to play with. I guess the question is, are you going to get a happy and healthy Odell Beckham Jr., or are you going to get a aggravated Odell Beckham? Because it seems as though the two sides are kind of at a standstill when it comes to his contract and what he's worth. First of all, do you believe a contract? Do you believe a deal will get done? And second of all, how much is a guy like Beckham worth to you?
Yeah, Q, I think they're going to get it done, but it's going to take some time, because you look at what Sammy Watkins got from the Chiefs and Brandon Cooks got from the Rams. We're talking upwards of $16, $17 million a year for a wide receiver. And yes, he is a game changer, but I think you talked about the key person first, of course. Eli Manning entering year 15 with the Giants, 37 years old. They want to see if he has a couple of years left. And this team, even though Beckham has put up those big numbers, we know that they've only been to the playoffs 2 out of 9 times the last seasons with Eli Manning. So, they got to pick it up, this team. I think right now Beckham kind of has their hands tied in terms of he is a supreme talent on that team. But, hopefully they can get this done and it doesn't drag on into the season.
Yeah, listen, I can't justify paying him $20 million. I just can't. But I do think he will eventually get paid. What did you make of Kelvin Benjamin's comments regarding Cam Newton now that he's in Buffalo and he's not playing with Newton anymore?
Yeah, I just shake my head, because I'm familiar with some people around the Carolina Panthers, and let's face it, Cam Newton, yes, he is not the most accurate, but he did carry that team to the Super Bowl in 2015. He was an MVP, 15-1. And ironically, Kelvin Benjamin was hurt that season. They didn't really need him. So Benjamin, a guy who's always played at a heavier weight, has really not lived up to that big rep coming out of Florida State. He kind of probably should concentrate on himself. And a Bills team, let's face it, that's rebuilding. So not a good look for him, and hopefully he'll keep his mouth shut. Cam took the high road, and that was good to see.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the play will speak volumes on the field. And Benjamin, you're talking about a wide receiver that ballooned up to 260, 270. I mean, listen, there's a reason that his career probably isn't hitting that arc that he thought it would. And, taking a shot at a former MVP, probably not the way to go. Again, a couple minutes with Lloyd Vance on a Tuesday, joining us on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. 97.3 ESPN FM, of course, middays with Q. Rich Quinones here. You look at the rest of the league and some of the other storylines, and I'm still wondering, at the end of the day, what's going to happen with a player like Des Bryant, if he's going to get signed or not. But we'll go to another wide receiver that wore the Cowboys uniform for one time. That's Terrell Owens. What did you make of this whole idea, Owens having his Hall of Fame induction speech, his ceremony at his old alma mater, and the NFL, well, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, which is an entirely different entity, kind of distancing themselves from that? I mean, they did acknowledge, but not to the extent that you would like. I mean, do you think we're going to get to this? Do you think there's ever going to be a point where you're going to see a lot of players who feel as though they've been snubbed too many times or for too many years decide, I'm just not going to show up anymore?
Yeah, you wonder if that's going to happen, because now you have the me generation, and T.O. kind of seems to be an extension of that. He's a guy that always, he's petulant. He wants things his way. Unfortunately, when you're dealing with personalities, people that vote, it's a 44-member committee, guys that I know from the Pro Football Writers Association, and some of these guys hold grudges from past situations. So they just wanted to kind of rub it in his face, make him wait it out, and he did, and he gets in. But you would have liked to see him come up there and said his piece in Canton. Why not do it there? He chose to do it another way, and that's just T.O. He's going to do his own thing. So we'll see how this plays out. But I think in the future you'll just probably see everybody show up, be gracious, because let's face it, you're only talking about, about 320 people that are in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and the NFL's been around almost 100 years.
Yeah, but in his defense, he's probably the worst. He is at worst the third best receiver in NFL history. Again, if you want to make the argument, he's definitely, you can say top 5. But Randy Moss, who, if you look at those numbers, they're eerily similar. They're equals. He gets in his first try. So there's really no explanation except the obvious. Voters just don't like Owens as a person, regardless of what he was able to accomplish. So I understand that. And now the reports come out that the Hall of Fame's considering requiring inductees to show up. So it's like, all right, hey, it took you this long. I'm going to twist your arm. I just think they're leaving themselves open to a ton of criticism, because I think their response was absurd. And I think on both sides they acted like children, because it should have been a special day for Owens. He should have been recognized. He should have been there. He should have been able to give his speech. And then if he wants to take a couple jabs and a couple barbs, so be it. He wouldn't be the first player to do it.
Yeah, it's a bad look, as you said, for both sides. And the Pro Football Hall of Fame and the selection committee should try to take the higher road now, because T.O. did deserve it, and there was no justification for keeping him out this long, other than, as you said, certain guys just didn't like the way he acts. But there's a litany of people, including one Ray Lewis, that you could have some question marks about in terms of character, whatever you want to say, that are in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
When you look at a player of Brian Dawkins' magnitude and the career that he had, I'm not going to say he redefined the position, but the way he played the position, now we start to see a lot of guys that will creep up to the line. They'll play against the run. They'll be released on third down to go after the quarterback. The forced fumbles, the interceptions, the sacks. I mean, how do you kind of, when you look back on his career and his induction this past weekend in the can, what are some of the memories of Dawk, and where do you put him as one of, when you talk about the position as far as all-time greats?
Yeah, Q, he's right up there with all the other safeties out there, Ronnie Lott and some of the other guys. And to me, he was the ultimate leader of that Philadelphia Eagles unit that made that Super Bowl with Donovan McNabb. I know McNabb was a quarterback, but when you walked in that locker room, which I did so many times, Brian Dawkins had the first 2 lockers in a locker room. He was the leader of that team, the guy that came up with the key interception, a guy that always came up with the fumble, the big hit. I always remember the Algie Crumpler hit in the championship game, as well as the pickoff of Brett Favre, where he threw it up in the divisional round in 2004. So, these are plays of Dawkins that will define him. But his speech, I just thought, was excellent. A man of faith, a man of family. He just does everything the right way, and it was good to see him get that honor.
Yeah, you're right, and it's all going to do for a lot of players. All right, I know it's tough to kind of handicap training camp battles and some of these quarterbacks here, but out of all the young quarterbacks, the highly drafted, the usual suspects, the Allens, the Rosens, the Darnolds, the Mayfields, the Jacksons, what quarterback do you think is going to see the field first?
Yeah, Q, and we kind of saw last week with Lamar Jackson, he made some plays, but he's not ready to be the guy. So when you look at Sam Darnold, you look at Josh Rosen, who could get an opportunity. They're probably the 2 best guys, I think, are prepared to step in right now. We've heard all along that Baker Mayfield's going to have to wait his turn behind Tyrod Taylor, who's a pretty good starting quarterback for the Browns. And Josh Allen, I just don't know if he's ready for the Buffalo Bills.
Do you foresee Aaron Donald and the Rams coming to an agreement here? I mean, at the end of the day, think about it. He's not going to join the team. You got Tuesday's deadline for players to report as well. I mean, is a deal going to get done here? Is it going to get done fairly soon, or you don't believe this holdout's going to end anytime?
Yeah, this is one I think could last into the season.
Wow.
It could be like a Cam Chancellor situation a couple of years ago. And it all points to Cook's got his deal, Gurley gets his deal, and then Donald, who's the number one defensive guy, sitting on the sidelines thinking, what about me? And the Rams seem like they're ready to budge. They're kind of going to lean on Wade Phillips and all the talent that they've accrued over the offseason. But they should take care of Aaron Donald. But it just shows you the pecking order in today's NFL, that offensive guys are getting these big contracts and defensive guys got to fight for it.
Yeah, like I said, it to me, it doesn't make sense. I mean, then you got a player in Khalil Mack, and now there's a couple of reports that, at the end of the day, maybe the Raiders. Listen, I'll say this: for the money they're paying Gruden, he'll hold out as long as possible as a head coach. But for some reason, my gut just tells me it's not going to end well here. And I know the season hasn't even started, and I realize he hasn't even coached in a meaningful game. I get it, but I just get the sense that they try to bring back all this tradition, and sometimes you have coaches that, young guys, they don't want the rah, rah, rah in your face all the time. They just don't.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how this thing plays out. He's dug his feet in the ground in terms of this Khalil Mack situation, not having talked to him. A lot of talent on his team with David Carr and a bunch of other guys, but they do have a lot of holes defensively and running the football. So, John Gruden, he better be careful what he wishes for. He may not be able to turn back the clock.
Yeah, you're right. It's just, and again, listen, he's a caricature, right? He's a personality, and he knows football, no doubt, but sometimes you can't always just go back and just turn back the clock and just go to the glory days. The game is listen, the game changed year to year. We know that. In closing, what did you think of the preseason game, the Ravens and the Bears, from an officiating standpoint? And I went on the air the next day, and I can tell you, full disclosure, full transparency, that these new rules, it's going to be painful to watch. It really is, because if I'm a safety or if I'm a DB, how can I even play the position anymore without fearful of getting flagged?
Yeah, Q, and the big thing I think is going to be the interpretation of the rule. We saw that a couple times in that game where they're going to replay, and I saw that one where the DB put his shoulder down and gave a nice hit, and then
clean football hit
flag.
Yeah, it's a football hit. You know that.
Yeah, it totally was. And if it's going to make the game longer and everybody start talking about it even more, it's going to be some long Mondays, but we're going to see how it turns out.
You're absolutely right about that. All right, my friend, good stuff as always. Enjoy your Tuesday. Enjoy the games later on the week, and we will talk next week. Always appreciate a couple moments, pal.
All right, thanks for having me on.